Okay. Hi, everybody. So sorry for the technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. So sorry for the technical difficulties. I don't know what went on. Our marketing team set up the webinar. When we launched it, it ended it and canceled it. So we've had to send that new link. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm seeing 5 of you are still there, and we're going to start a little bit late. I'm Jennifer Brennan, and I'm the horticulturist. I'm not the tech person. Although I've learned about Zoom so much, and Skype and all those things. I love bulbs. I love bulbs. This is my favorite time of year when bulbs come in, because it's just so much fun to plan and plant. And I have learned so many wonderful insiders and tips that I'm going to be sharing with you about how to get the most display out of your bulbs, and how to I've got some really fun tricks to share with you. Now, they resent the link. The first link that came had my notes attached with neat diagrams on them, and I'll be going over those, as we go through the session. Now, it looks like we've got 11. We had 20 people that, I think 22 people, or maybe it was 27 people that had registered. So I'm going to wait a few more minutes. I apologize. I think a lot of you were signed on and then got dropped off. So I am so sorry about the technical difficulties. People are logging on. The handout was attached to the first link that was sent to you all. So you can print that and from your computer, or just open it up so you have it. I'm gonna set the PowerPoint up as soon as I see that everyone has logged back on. And I apologize. I'm sitting here apologizing for the technical difficulties for the Zoom. The webinar just dropped off when we hit the launch button, and it just said the webinar expired. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And our marketing team scrambled to get another link sent to you. So, oh good, we've got 14 people. Welcome. I'm Jennifer Brennan, and I'm going to be talking about bulbs. This is the Bulbs 2020. And I'm going to wait a few more minutes so that people, if they notice that they got the new link, to be able to log on to this presentation. And boy, I'm so sorry for the technical problems that we've had this morning. I can actually kind of show some fun things. Look at all these wonderful bulbs that they just came in yesterday. Oh my gosh. And this is one of my favorites. This is called, it's Design Impression. The cool thing about this one, beautiful pink flowers, and see the foliage, it's variegated. So you've got white edges on these. When they finish flowering and you cut the flowers off, you still looks like you've got even hostas in that bed. And so you've got an ornamental look while the leaves are recharging. So, okay, we've got 15 people. I'm apologizing and just kind of showing things until we get started. I've got a wonderful PowerPoint to show you. I'm giving people a chance to get the email. The first webinar expired just as we logged on. So I apologize. And so I'm giving people a few minutes to get linked back in, to the Zoom webinar page, and then the handout was sent with the first link. So you may have to download the handout from the very first email that you got. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And to kill time, it looks like we've got 16 people. And I know there was 20 to 27 that had pre-registered. So I'm hoping that you all are able to, to get the new email. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do is share the screen with the PowerPoint. Here it is. Oh no. Okay, it told me the connection got lost. Here we go. All right. And this is it. I've got 2 questions and answers already. Let me take a look at those. A skunk or something just dug up my crocus bulbs. Can I replant them? Yes, you can, Cindy. You can absolutely replant them. But what I want you to do when you replant them is use a repellent. And Repel-Zol will really do the trick. And you sprinkle this in the hole, and then on top of after you put the soil on top, sprinkle it on top. And this will repel, you know, the animals and keep them from redigging. And it says, what was the name of the pink tulip you just showed? Hi, Tricia. This is called the Darwin. It's a Darwin hybrid. It's called Design Impression. I love this one. Now, and I was just kind of killing time while everyone was re-registering and getting signed back on. I'm going to show these at the very end. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the question and answer over to this bottom corner right over here. And let me make sure I don't have any chat box things coming up. And it doesn't look, no chat boxes just yet. Okay, so I have 16 people. That's the number so we'll go ahead and get started. I have to set this up like a slideshow right now. And so the title, the official title of this, Play from the Start, is, and you know, how to get the best out of bulbs and how to get the most display. And let me make sure, oh, it's gonna work. Okay, now in Holland or the Netherlands, there 11 billion bulbs are cultivated. You know, it's usually on an area as big as 30 football fields. And there are 100 different kinds of flower bulbs divided into 8,000 different varieties. Is that amazing? I just love this. Now, I don't know, a lot of you know me and know that I've had a kind of a gypsy past. My dad was a safety engineer for a natural gas pipeline company. And back in 1967, and I just gave my age away, didn't I? When they found that huge natural gas find in the North Sea, my dad headed a company. It was a subsidiary between Royal Dutch Shell and Standard Oil in New Jersey, and it was called the International Gas Maatschappij. Maatschappij means company in Dutch. And so when I was 12 years old, we moved to The Hague, Netherlands. And so I got to see these fields in person. I lived there with my family for 3 years. We had so much fun. Now, okay, I'm showing you these. This was from back in 2017, and I'm giving credit to the person that came up with this idea. It was well, the designer was Mike Blackwell, is Mike Blackwell, and he's one of our most talented landscape architects in our landscape division. And this was a collaboration between one of our big bulb suppliers and our garden shop manager at the time, Gloria, and they came up with this great idea to plant all of our fence line garden with 20,000 bulbs. So I'm just going to pop through this to just kind of get you all in the mood for planting bulbs. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. Pardon me. Here, my Yeti with my iced tea in it. Look, don't you love a Yeti? Okay, now I'm going to flash through these pictures pretty quickly. This is what our outdoor sign looked like. And it was just phenomenal. 20,000 bulbs. And okay, again, across, you know, this was the west gate showing all of the hyacinths. And it was designed to have the grape hyacinths come up first, the snowdrops even before that, and then the hyacinths, then the tulips, the early tulips. And what's interesting about all the bulbs is that they're early spring, mid-spring, and late spring. And if you understand that, you can plant to extend your bloom time. And so he did this in the fence line gardens. And now look, close-ups, look at these gorgeous hyacinths and the fragrance. You can almost smell the fragrance. And then we have the beautiful Darwin hybrid tulips. Those are the ones that are the most hardy in our landscapes. And they're 20 to 24 inches tall. This is over in front of the chalet house. This is our administrative office building. And then look in the front with the window boxes. That was the original front door when people were living in the house. And then this is out on the fence line again. Look at the 2 different colors of the hyacinth with the different, and then you can see all the daffodils in the back. isn't this just phenomenal? It was spectacular that spring. And I'm gonna, and with the close-ups, and then look at the variation of the color that he did, starting with the yellow tulips, going with the peach color, and then to the pink. Just incredible, absolutely incredible. And then this is just when they're opening up, tight bud phase, and then the tulips with the daffodils. And this is one of my favorite daffodils. This is ice follies, and then close up of ice follies. And here we go. And then I just am teasing you. And this is what you could do in your own garden. And they say you're not happy unless you plant 200 bulbs or more than 100 bulbs. And look how gorgeous this is. And then, oh, I love this tulip. I love this tulip. Okay, I'm just gonna flash through like I said, I'm teasing you on this. And this is what the fence line looked like. This year it was mostly pastels. They did a real pastel, color option. And this was about 2 weeks later when all of the bulbs were open. Is this just spectacular? It looks like the Keukenhof, like over in Holland. And then look, aren't those spectacular? Okay, here we go. And this is on the south bed, and you can see how they were swagging things through and working around the other the ornamental grasses. Just incredible. I was absolutely amazed that they were able to do this. And here we go. And just, am I getting you in the mood for planting bulbs? And look at this. It was just spectacular. And then pretty soon we're going to shift to, this is along the Lake Avenue side. And you can see much later, the viburnum is in bloom, and then all the alliums, all the flowering onions were opening up. So this is late in the season, because these are late season bloomers, and you can see the alliums and the flowering onions, and the catmint in bloom. And now we're ready to start the learning part of bulbs. Now, bulbs are the underground storage organs of a plant, and they come in all different shapes and colors. And what's so interesting is the flowers are already inside that bulb when you plant it in the bulb. So you can see the hyacinths. These are true bulbs, the hyacinths, the crocus, daffodils, and tulips. And those are the true bulbs. And you can see that they have the basal plates. I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay, here we go. This is back. They have a basal plate at the bottom where the roots they come from, and then most of these are layered. They're layered, not unlike an onion, where it layers all the different the storage parts of the bulb. Now there are also bulbs. There's bulbs, tubers, and corms, and there are also modifications of plant parts to store energy. And what's amazing is, they're either modified stems or modified roots there, and they're all different colors and all different shapes. I love this diagram because this is a tulip that's been sliced in half. So you can see the photo of the tulips that's sliced in half, and then looking at the diagram next to it at the top, you can see the cross section of a tulip in October. The embryo of the flower is in the center of that bulb, and those bulbs were making those all through August and September out in the growing fields, and then they're ready to be harvested, and then they were harvested in Holland. Some of our bulbs come in from the West Coast, like Oregon, but most of our bulbs are from Holland. And then you can see the cross section of it, and what would happen with the tulip in March. And you can see the plant is starting to grow, and that flower bud is in the center. That was there in the embryo when the bulb was planted in September, October. And then this is a cross section of the tulip in June after it's flowered, and then after the foliage, the leaves have been up in the sunlight for 6 to 8 weeks. recharging. They photosynthesize, make carbohydrates, and then recharge the bulb so that it's all ready to go the next year. And then what also happens in that diagram, you can see how the little baby bulbs were produced also. And so that plant is technically, there's two terms. There's perennializing and naturalizing. Perennializing means it makes its own new baby bulbs, and then you can divide those at a later date and get a lot more bulbs. Okay. Now this is the time sequence of a daffodil, and so over on when you're looking at your screen on the left-hand side, that's what the bulb looks like when you plant it in October. Now that's really important. You want to select your bulbs now because they're fresh. They've just come in from Holland. Your selection is going to be the best. We're getting another shipment for another one of our suppliers this afternoon. So this weekend, you'll have a full selection of bulbs here in the store. And so you want to buy them now, put them in a paper bag, and store them someplace like in the cellar or the basement where it's cool. And you don't want to put them in the hot garage. And then wait till our soil temperatures drop down. Our soil temperatures, we've been monitoring the soil temperatures because of this heat and this terrible drought we've had. They've been up as high as 85, even 2 weeks ago. Now they're dropping down. They're still 76 degrees. You want to wait till that soil temperature drops another almost 15 to 20 degrees. You want it down in the 60s before you plant. If you put bulbs in the ground when it's this hot, when the soil is this warm, you risk having the bulbs rot. So save them until the soil temperatures get cooler. And we're going to be posting the soil temperatures on our website again so that people can see when it's safe to do the planting. And then the other thing is when it's cooler outside, although how about this morning? I got up at 5:30 this morning to go to my 6:15 workout, and I was wearing shorts and a tank top, and I went out to my car. It was 56 degrees. I almost thought I should turn my heated seats on, but it was so nice to be chilly for the first time, this horrible heat, growing season. Oh, wait, I stopped talking about this. Okay, so you can see the bulbs after they're planted grow new roots. They grow the roots, and then they will start a shoot even in October. They rarely come up above the ground level, but sometimes they do, and people are always calling saying, oh no, my bulbs are starting too soon. What's cool about daffodils is when their roots form, it produces a hormone all throughout the cells of the bulb, and it gives an elasticity to the cell walls. So when the soil does freeze solidly, then if there's any water in the cells and the water expands because it's freezing, then it won't shatter the cell walls. Now, if they don't form their roots, that hormone doesn't get produced. And sometimes if the plants haven't been watered enough or the bulbs haven't been watered enough and the ground freezes solidly, then those cells will shatter and you'll lose the flower embryos inside the bulb. So if you've ever planted daffodils and we've had a dry fall and the next spring you didn't get flowers, that's what happened. When the ground froze, the roots hadn't had a chance to form. So it's really important to water your bulbs well after they've been planted. Okay, so then the third one is the view of after they've been chilled over the winter and they get that cold treatment, it breaks the hormone in them that prevents them from flowering. So once that hormone is broken down from vernalization, that's the cold treatment, then the plant will start growing, usually in April, and then you can see the flower buds forming, you can see it in flower, and then when the flowers finish, they wilt down, and then the leaves stay up, they photosynthesize, recharge the bulb, and then they dry up. Now in the Mediterranean, the rains stop at the end of May and in June. And so they automatically know to dry up and get finished. I'm going to move my question and answer screen so I can make sure I'm talking about, and then you'll see how all of the new bulbs, the new bulbs are forming. Now on daffodils in particular, you'll see multiples together. Don't break them apart because the little baby bulbs aren't ready to leave the mother until they form better, they're better roots. So just plant it all together. If you plant bulbs and you get bulbs that you're buying in the fall and they're like that, don't break them apart just yet. Put them in the ground and then they'll break apart on their own. Okay, the next one, here we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're supposed to advance. Why isn't this working? Oh. Okay, this is the history. In Holland, they're the people that saw the value of the bulbs and did the hybridizing of them. And so this is a photo of the of the early tulips that were being grown in Holland. On the left is a species tulip. This is what would have been found in the Mediterranean region in Turkey and it wasn't Israel back then, but in that region. And then this is how they've been hybridized. This is a Darwin hybrid. And so they were hybridized to get bigger and bigger petals. And that's what we enjoy and love now. Now the tulip species, there's actually 14 different classifications of tulips. So you can see single early, double early. I'm going to go through all of these with photos. And then we also have, excuse me, the Kaufman, the botanical types, the Kaufmanniais, the Fosterianas, the Grigiais, and then the species tulips. And here we go. Single earlies. Oh, these are just spectacular. The single earlies, a lot of these are Darwins. And when we say earlies, the early tulips are the ones that start blooming in April. And, in April. And early is April, mid-season is May, and late season is June. And again, it depends on our weather. We can't really just say exactly April, exactly May, exactly June. It varies. But those are the single early. Then double, when we're talking about double, we're talking about the number of petals. So when these are hybridized, and what's fun about the doubles is that to get more petals, the sexual organs of the flower were sacrificed. So what's interesting is the doubles tend to last longer out in the garden and longer as cut flowers because they don't get pollinated. They don't get pollinated at all. They're just always propagated vegetatively. So they tend to last and last much longer. My favorite type is called Angelique. Here we go. Triumphs. Triumphs are the very tall ones. These are the ones that go 30 inches tall, great big flowers, beautiful show out in the garden. Okay, then they're the Darwin hybrids. And the Darwin hybrids are the ones that are probably the longest lasting out in our gardens, and not just for the season, but coming back for 2 to 3 years. Tulips are pretty tough in our heavy clay soils because they rot so easily. They have so many carbohydrates in them. They're food for everyone. So squirrels will dig them up, deer will eat them, rabbits will eat them. But these, because they've been bred so well, tend to come back in your gardens probably 2 or 3 years if you plant them in the right location. You want them in a spot where they're not going to get overly watered in the summertime. So I would not ever recommend planting, a plant that needs a lot of water like an impatiens on top of where the tulips are planted. You want to plant them in a sunny location. So they like to bake, and they would have loved the summer where they are. Now the single lates, the lates are in at the very end of May into July. I'm not such a fan of the late tulips because I want to get the rest of my garden planted. I'm going to get my annuals in, and you have to wait for the late ones to mature, if you want them to come back. And so I'm usually not that patient, but they are beautiful. They're just gorgeous, 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 the late. The lily flowering ones, we have mid-season ones and late ones. And the lily flowers have those pointed petals. Fringed, another gorgeous tulip. Most of these are late season ones. There are a couple of mid-season ones so you can get by adding these. And now we're switching to the daffodils. I love daffodils. Now the daffodils are so wonderful because no animals will eat them. They won't eat the leaves, they won't eat the flowers, and they won't eat the bulbs because they're toxic. They're toxic. And so then these are all the different sizes and varieties. They range from the little tete-tete up at the upper left-hand corner to the poeticus ones down, the dual colored one with the white collar and the orange trumpet. And then the classic Dutch master is down over in the right-hand corner. Beautiful, wonderful plants that just wake up your garden. Then there are the hyacinths. Hyacinths are beautifully, wonderfully fragrant with just gorgeous, gorgeous colors. They're usually early season to mid-season, and they're very heavy, heavy flowered. If they tend to topple over, here's an insider's trick: take a bamboo skewer that you use for for making shish kebabs, and you can stick it down through the center of the flower. The stem is actually hollow. Stick it down through, and that will help hold it up out in the garden or in a container. So that neat insider trick. Okay, I love the Grecian windflowers, or the Greek windflowers. They're the little white ones. Then this is my garden here in the left photo. My front door with my, this is the garden in front of my house, and then you can see those are my rhododendrons. It's an aglow. It's AGLO is the hybrid on that one. It was so funny when my son was still living at home and was a teenager. When I have 9 of these shrubs across the front of my house, they're evergreens for the rest of the year, but in the spring they are really pink. And he came home one day and said, "Mom, I can't have any of my friends over. It is just too pink in front of this house." So I actually got a break, from teenage boys in my house. So it was wonderful. But you can see the hostas coming up, and the plants in between are the Grecian windflowers. So and they're these adorable little white daisy type plants. And the nice thing about them is they're toxic, and so animals don't eat these. And so they are a perfect combination if you want to plant bouquets. Like put the daffodils in the center or tulips in the center, and then ring the anemones around the edges. And I'm going to show you a diagram on how to do that later. Bouquets are wonderful because instead of just having a whole bunch of soldiers in a row along the front of your sidewalk or at the front, the front edge of your bed, you make these bouquets, and it looks like a flower arrangement in the garden. I love crocus. Crocus are so wonderful. They're some of the earliest of the bulbs to come up. You do have to protect these because everybody eats them. Rabbits eat them, and I think they sit there and watch until the buds just crack color, and then they go eat them for you. So you have to use repellents to take care of that, and you can use a spray. The plant skeet is wonderful. Repels all is wonderful. There's a neat new one called Rat Magic that really repels the animals, and you just sprinkle it on the ground all around the bulbs, and that really helps. This is winter aconite. One of the earliest bulbs to flower is Eranthis, and it's bright, bright yellow. So you see it a mile away. You usually see it on the south sides of buildings where it warms up sooner because the sun is shining on the south side. And this is the lower picture on the bottom is next to a rock outcropping, and you can see the rock warmed up earlier, and so then the winter aconite came out. What I love about this is see how the foliage is whorled around underneath where the flower is, and when the flower finishes, you get a really beautiful looking display of the foliage, the leaves. I love snowdrops. Galanthus, this is usually how you see them, where they're peeking up through the snow. And as the snow melts, you can see the snowdrops are up very, very early. They're very end of March, and just wonderful additions. Whenever I see the snowdrops coming up, it shows me that that winter is ending. And then here's the packages of the snowdrops. Now I want to show you that look, always look, and I don't know if you can see this. I'll show you at the end too. But always look on the package, and it shows you down this lower corner that this is an early blooming type. Okay, now I love snowdrops. Okay, grape hyacinth. Grape hyacinth are wonderful ones, early to mid-season, and they're also toxic. So they're wonderful to plant around the edges of a bouquet, and because nobody eats them. They're fragrant, and what's really fun about these is when you plant them around the edge. I always plant grape hyacinth wherever I plant any of my bulbs because their leaves come up in the fall, always. And people are always, startled by that but the leaves always come up. So you always know where your bulbs are, and you always know where to fertilize. Bulbs are heavy, heavy feeders. So you want to make sure you fertilize in the fall, and then also in the spring, when they're finishing blooming, put the fertilizer down, and then that's what the bulbs use to recharge and build their bulbs back up. That's they're photosynthesizing. So I love grape hyacinth. Here's a different, these are different photos of the different cultivars of the grape hyacinth. You've got the two-tone one down at the bottom, a dark, dark purple, a pale, pale blue at the lower one, a white one, and then this one, I forgot the name of that one. I'll have to get that for you at the end. Siberian Squill, another really, really early bulb. This is the one that turns all the lawns in Evanston blue. And this is one of the most hardy. Siberian Squill, Siberia, Siberia, and it's Scilla. And this one is renowned for perennializing, making more bulbs, and then also naturalizing. It will drop seeds and throw seeds. Those seeds will germinate and make more. That's how the lawns, on the North Shore got covered with this squill. So these also work in containers because they're very, very hardy. So you can plant a container with these. You can't with other bulbs. They won't survive our cold winters outside. Okay, fritillarias are really fun. I didn't bring one up here to show you on this screen, but because they smell like skunks, but they're beautiful. I like to put them at the back edge of the garden, and then it will repel deer and rabbit because they think a skunk is in the area. But these are called crown imperials because it looks like a crown, the way the flowers at the top. And they're usually in oranges, yellows, reds. Beautiful, beautiful. Don't plant them underneath a window though, because if you want to have your windows open in the spring, these will really not smell good. Okay, alliums, a very late blooming bulb, but it is a huge bulb. Oh, did I bring one in? I did. These are huge, really large bulbs. Okay, so this is one bulb in a package. See how big it is? It's probably 4 inches in diameter across. And this is one of my favorites. This is Globemaster. And these are Globemaster photos that you're looking at right here. And then, well, no, the colored ones are Globemaster. Down below, you can see the dried, the dried seed pods and that's the Christophii. And the Christophii they're also called giant alliums. They're only 24 inches tall when they're in bloom, but the flower heads are about 12 inches in diameter. They're so much fun. And then when they dry, you can do fun things with them, and you can spray paint them in the garden, leave them up for summer interest. This is the Christophii. This was in a display garden that I got to visit one time. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful color, and in bloom at the same time with the early roses. Okay, now the soil, you want to have a pH level between 5 and 7, so it's a little bit mildly acidic. You don't want the salt. EC is the salt concentration. You want that low. They need to be properly drained. Too much water in the soil forces out the oxygen, and then those bulbs will die. So they always have to be well drained. Or one thing you can add is the clay soil perfector that will absorb excess water and oxygenate, the area. Okay, let's keep moving. The climate, bulbs require a period of the low temperatures to break that dormancy. One thing I like to rub in with my southern friends is their soils don't get cold. So they can't enjoy spring flowering bulbs unless they put them in, like they chill them in a refrigerator over the winter and then plant them outside the next spring. So again, it has to be below 50 degrees to help break that dormancy. Pardon me. I'm so sorry. Okay. Now these are the practical planting instructions. When you're over in Europe in the church courtyard, this is how you plant them. But I copied these diagrams on how you can do different plantings by the depth of the bulb. Now, the rule of thumb is you take the diameter, you look at the diameter of the bulb. So this tulip is 2 inches in diameter, and you multiply times 4. And that's the depth that you want the bottom of the bulb to be. So tulips should be planted 6 to 8 inches below grade. And so this diagram at the top, so you can get different bloom times, and in one area. This is good for small areas. I have a 3-foot square area right next to my front porch, and I do this every year. I put the alliums in the bottom because they go 12 inches deep, and then the tulips are 6 to 8 inches, and then the grape hyacinth is 4 inches, and the crocuses are 3 inches. The crocus bloom early spring, so they come up first, and then when they're finished, the grape hyacinth comes up. Then when they're finished, the tulips come up, and then after that, all the foliage is still there. Then the alliums come up, and in the early spring. So you have a rotation of all of these plants in that same 3 square foot area. It's really fun to do, and usually I can get by with 3 years in a row. And then, then the tulips, I have to replant the tulips. So I just dig everything up, salvage what's there, and replant them. Now, this is the next diagram in the bottom of this screen is called bulb positioning. And this is how I get a better show of one of my favorite tulips. And it's my double flowered Angelique. And it's a late bloomer. And unfortunately, when you plant a late blooming one, sometimes we'll get early, warm-ups in our garden, and then the tulips don't last very long. They'll last like three days, and it's so sad. But here's how you extend your bloom. So and on the other side of the porch is also a 3x3 area, and so I take 36 of the tulips, and I plant 12 of them. I divide it all up. I plant 12 of them upright. I plant 12 of them sideways. And then I plant 12 of them upside down. And people are just out in the audience, just horrified. All right. The upright ones start first. They start first. They start growing. They all wake up at the same time, and they all start growing. But the sideways ones, when they're growing sideways, they realize, ooh, something's wrong. So they pause for a week to 10 days, and then their shoot turns upward. And then so it blooms a week to 10 days after the first ones do. And then the upside down one, it starts growing. And a week to 10 days later, says, wait a minute, we're growing the wrong direction. And that's called geotropism. And that's how plants know which direction to grow, roots down and shoots up. And so it changes direction. And then a week to 10 days later, it realizes, wait, I'm still growing sideways. And then a week, 10 days later, it come up. So then that one is in bloom 3 weeks later. So I just extended the bloom for 3 total weeks of my favorite tulip. Now, what happens is they will upright themselves. So the sideways ones, I'll have 24 that will be upright. So if I want to do that again, I have to dig them all up and reposition them. But I learned this trick from Georges David, who is one of our favorite bulb suppliers. And he taught me this. He said, when they use front end loaders out in the fields in Holland and just dump the bulbs and spread them out, it would take every person in Holland to be able to put the bulbs upright to plant them. And so this is why it works, because the bulbs always have this uprighting. They upright themselves. So you can use this trick when you're planting. Now this next one is the bulb bouquet, because they always say that you're not happy unless you plant 100 bulbs in your garden. And most people are looking at me with one of those bulb planters that looks like an open can with a handle on it, and they look at me and say, oh my gosh, I gotta do this 100 times. No, you do a bouquet, which means you dig a hole that's 10 inches in diameter and 8 inches deep. And in the bottom, you put your major bulbs. Major bulbs are things like tulips and daffodils and hyacinth, because of the larger bulbs. And usually you have 10, like 2 in the center and 8 around the edge of the bottom of the hole. Then cover the tops of those bulbs, fill the 8-inch deep hole with half full of soil, so only 4 inches. Water it in well, and then take minor bulbs like the grape hyacinths I was talking about, the spring anemones, the crocus, or the squill, and ring around the edge of the hole, and then fill the soil, the hole up with the rest of the soil. Put your fertilizer on top. Now, this is really important. On the bags, sometimes they will say, put the fertilizer underneath the bulbs. Don't. I learned this from another wonderful bulb, a bulb grower from Virginia that, that taught me this, that don't put fertilizer underneath because the roots will grow into the fertilizer. It can burn the roots, and then the roots will rot, and that's how you lose your bulbs that way. So you just sprinkle the fertilizer on top of the planting hole and water it in. And remember I was telling you about daffodils, if they don't get watered in enough, they don't make their roots. So you have to make sure you water those bulbs once a week until the ground freezes solidly, unless we're getting good rainfall. I just always make sure I water them to make this happen. And then when the bulbs come up in the spring, you have the daffodils in the center and the grape hyacinth around the edge. And it's just such a wonderful look. And you have 10 bulbs in the bottom, 10 around the edge. You just planted 20 bulbs in that bouquet. So if you do 5 of those and plant them in between your perennials or in between your shrubs in the front border, you have 100 bulbs already. Isn't that great? So you have to change your name. I changed my name in the spring to Jennifer Van Brennan instead of just Jennifer Brennan. So I look like I'm Dutch. Now, this is the necessary equipment. In Holland, this is what you have. And they have wonderful old-fashioned wooden tools. And then they all wear wooden shoes. Klompen is the term, klompen. I have a pair of wooden shoes that I got when I lived in Holland, and they're warm. They keep your feet dry. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. But here in the United States, you just need to have a good shovel, a good spade, a good garden fork, and a good trowel, to plant. And and again, one of my favorite bulb producers, Brent and Becky's bulbs, they taught me how to plant bulbs quickly. You just take a trowel, like at the front of this picture, hold it backwards with your hand, just shove it into the ground, shove it up, and that opens the cell up, and drop the bulb in at the base of where the trowel is. Pull the trowel up and shove the soil back down. You can plant lots of bulbs doing it that way. Okay, so now the other thing you need is a sufficient fresh bulb supply. And so this is what it looks like at Chalet, and then this is what it looks like over in Holland. Now, steps for planting. You want to prepare a well-drained site. If you have heavy clay soil, you want to make sure that you do an amendment, like the Espoma clay soil perfector. It's wonderful. They're 3/8 of an inch diameter of particles that look like lava rock, and they absorb the moisture in the soil if you have a wet soil. And then when the moisture gets pulled out into the soil, it helps oxygenate the soil. And they're like porcelain chips that never break down. I love those. And that's what we're talking about. Okay, you want to fertilize at planting time, water, if you're not getting an inch of rain each week, and then select the best cultivars for the site. And then you want to plant in time, plant before the ground freezes solidly, especially with tulips, crocus, daffodils, crocus, and the hyacinth. Now, tulips are really toughies. You can dig a hole, save your tulips, as long as you have the hole dug and you've got thawed soil to put on top of them. You can plant tulips when the ground's solid, frozen solid. So they wouldn't be, it wouldn't hurt them at all. Okay, you make sure you have a good bulb food. Bulb tone was one of our all-time favorites. Dr. Earth is my all-time favorite now, is the Dr. Earth bulb food. And and that's the photo of it. And what I love about it is it's 3-14-2, so it has 14% phosphorus, which is the nutrient for bulbs and flower production. So my favorite is the Dr. Earth, and here I'll show you. I have it. Oh gosh, it's a 4-pound bag. See, this is the Dr. Earth. I love the Dr. Earth, and so and again, not in the bottom of the hole, on the top of the hole, and water it in. Now, this is just a neat chart showing the different depths. I talked about the planting depth based on the diameter of the bulbs. This just kind of gives you an overview of like the alliums, the muscari, crocus, and then like the fritillarias. Fritillarias are interesting in that they have a concave bulb. So we always recommend that you plant those sideways. If you plant that where the where it's going to be upright like this, and the roots grow out of the bottom, they can hold too much water and rot. So always plant the fritillarias sideways. Okay. Now this is, I'm just going to show you some combinations of tulips with annuals and perennials just to give you an idea. This is planted with wisteria, and you can see all of the tulips, and then this is forget-me-not, which is, and those are late blooming tulips and forget-me-not. Perennializing, what that means is, and naturalizing. Perennializing means that more bulbs form from the, you know, the original bulbs that were in the ground. And naturalizing is what happens when seeds get dropped and the seeds come up. Now, to get this effect, you know, what you do is you just take your bulbs, you walk into this open meadow like this, and you just toss them and plant them wherever they land. And this gives you this effect. Okay, this is, I showed you how to do the layering. I just wanted to show you this in a diagram, how to layer. And then 10 golden rules for success. I've kind of covered that. Make sure you're using repellents. So the plant skid repels all. You have to protect them because, especially tulips, they're so interesting to animals. They love that. I'm just going to show you. These are some pictures of my own garden. There's my rhododendron, a pot of pansies, my cute little, you know, daffodils. This was my big perennial garden when I had my arborist mulch my my trees. He mulched out to the drip line. So I plant, these are all bouquets, my bulb bouquets, heucheras in there, and these are close-ups of the daffodils and the bouquets. I love the bouquets, and these are the multi-stems. This is a variety called Toronto. This is Montreal and Toronto, and they have more than one flower that comes out of each bulb. So this was 8 bulbs, and I had 24 flowers with each of those. Here it is with a close-up, and then there it is right there. These are the Grigii types, and okay, and then a close-up again. Beautiful Poeticus daffodil, and you can see the hostas coming up. So this is the end of April, going into early May, with forget-me-nots, the Grecian windflowers, and then again the beautiful colored tulips, and then this is a late variety, and so I switched colors from the apricot colors and to the oranges and the yellows and reds, and this was, and you can see how the hostas are coming up, the alliums are budding up in the back, and look at, I love this variety, beautiful. And then, oh, and then this is when my my spring irises. This is one that smells like grape bubble gum. But unfortunately, like this year, we hit 85 degrees, and they lasted 2 days. I was heartbroken. And then there are my alliums coming up, and alliums with all my different perennials and my hostas, and a little bit later with the stackies and the alliums. And there are the alliums there. And then this is just a photo to remind you to plant enough so you can cut bouquets to bring them in the house. This is in my sunroom. And this is in my, I have a greenhouse window over my kitchen sink. So this is what I look like. And this is what I get to look at every spring. And then this is what I'm going to make our gardens look like this. This is the Keukenhof. This is a Keukenhof, and you know, the Dutch garden in Holland. And then I'm going to check. Let me just, I'm gonna actually stop the share and check to see if we have, oh, here I'm back again. And let's see, I've got a couple of chats. Let's see what the chats are, and I'll answer your questions. Okay, oh, I did that wrong. That's not right. I wanted to do the chat and in the share. Oh, no. Oh, no. We're not gonna do that. Let me go back to do this. Oh, here's the chat box. Bring the chat box up. Here we go. And I'm just going to bring this back over here. And the chat box from Susan. Show the 7 steps for planting. Okay. Hints to remember where bulbs were. Maureen says hints to remember where bulbs are planted in the fall. I don't understand that. Okay, let's go over here. And I've got more questions here. Okay. Usha is talking about replanting. And note in the middle of the bulb is hollow and the stem out. I don't understand that. I'm so sorry. I don't understand that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just kind of go over this. We went over the outline where it's the history. They're Mediterranean natives, so that's why you want to keep them in full, as much sun as you can give them. You can get by planting them in shady areas, and they will bloom in a shady area, but you'll have to replant them every year because they will not recharge if they're not in full sun to recharge. I talked about the different bloom times. When you're purchasing the bulbs, always check the labels. Always check the labels, and you'll see where it says early spring, late mid-spring, or late spring. So always, look for that on the label. I want to also show you a fun thing where let me just get this out of the way. Okay, these are bulbs that you can plant right now. These are the saffron crocus. You can put these in the ground right now, and they will be in bloom in 6 weeks. So this is kind of a rewarding good behavior. So I always buy a bag of these to after I planted all my bulbs, and I get these in. So I get to see some flowers, and and it rewards me for all my hard work for planting my bulbs that are going to bloom in the spring. Another one that is really fun is the lycoris. And those are also called surprise lilies or naked ladies. And the reason they're called naked ladies is they bloom without any foliage. The stem comes up and blooms. It'll bloom right now. So you can plant them now, and they will bloom now. And then next spring, when the foliage comes up, you'll go, what is there? I don't remember planting anything there. So that's good. Another fun one that is a native to here, and they're huge, huge bulbs. It's called camassia. These were actually used by our Native Americans here in this area, and they would use these for food sources. And we have these out on our fence line garden right now, and they bloom in May, going into early June. And it's called camas, camas or camassia. And let me see. All right, I think I've shown you all the things that are in my magic bags of tricks. Again, the repellents, use either Repel-Zol or plant seed granular is very effective. Sprinkle it in the bottom of the hole and on the top of the hole, and it will really help. Now, if you have carnivores in your garden, like raccoons, or if you have any coyotes nearby, think twice about using plant seed because it is blood-based. So they'll dig up your bulbs looking for what's buried in there, thinking it was something that had blood on it. So if you have that problem, don't use this. Use the Repel-Zol, or also use Rat Magic. This has got a horrible name. I've been talking about it in the last couple of garden coach sessions, but it's got all kinds of wonderful. It has cedarwood oil in it, and it has castor oil. It has clove oil and peppermint oil, and it is wonderful to really repel. And it's labeled for, I know rats are awful, but squirrels and chipmunks. And these are the ones that really get our bulbs. So I highly recommend that Rat Magic. It really works great. So, okay, now I'm looking. We still have 18 people. Thanks for hanging in there with me. And what I want you to do is, come in. Our merchandising staff and our buyers did a brilliant thing. They have put all of the bulbs on the racks according to bloom time. So you can find all the early ones together, you find all the mid-season ones together, and all the late ones together. So it makes it so easy to plan your garden. One of my favorite tricks is to plant two that are similar or three that are similar. And so I like, again, I was showing you this Darwin impression with the variegated foliage. There's another one, variegated foliage, called, and it's a parrot type. It's late, and this is called silver parrot. So you plant these in the same bed. These bloom first, and then these come in second, and then the foliage looks alike, and you have a great extended display, in your garden. So another way you could, even make it more fun and a longer display is add like apricot beauty, because it's an early bloomer, and so you have all these 3 different pink ones that would, that'll trick yourself and your neighbors into thinking you had a pink tulip that bloomed for 3 whole months. So use those tricks. Try those tricks. It really is fun. And try the bouquet, because you can plant so many more plants, so many more plant bulbs if you do the bouquets. And it's easy to dig, and you're not drilling holes in the ground and dropping bulbs in. Just do bouquets. And you want to plant as many as, I like to encourage you to plant at least 8 to 10 tulips together. If you're using the smaller bulbs, you want to do about 20 of like crocus together, or the grape hyacinth, or the squill, 20 to 24 together, so you get a nice, display. Also, snowdrops, plant at least 20 of them all in one hole. And so, and then they just keep coming back year after year after year. I have snowdrops that I planted 30 years ago that come back in the same spot, and then they move around a little bit, and I don't mind when I see new ones popping up in other places in my garden. So, so I think, let's see what time it is. We're 5 minutes away from noon. Time to go get lunch. And I still have 18 people here. Thank you so much. Come in and look at all the wonderful, the wonderful bulbs that we have. And again, we should have the whole selection set up for this weekend. So thank you so much for staying with us through our virtual learning sessions since with this COVID thing. And then when you have questions, always remember it's hello@chaletnursery.com. That goes to our call center, and then they send the questions to the people that can answer them the best. You can also call us out in the Plant Information Center, and that number is that extension is 634, and our chalet number is 847-256-0561. And bring your samples, and I was just checking to see if I had any more. Okay, foliage post blooming. LOLs, bad. What to do? Foliage post blooming. Okay. You need to, okay, all you have to do is leave the foliage up for 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks. So what I do is I keep a calendar, and I keep track of when my bulbs stop blooming, and I mark an X. Boo-hoo, my daffodils stop blooming. And then I count out 8 to 10 weeks later, and I know that's when I can cut the foliage down. Over in the Mediterranean, the rain stops, so that foliage browns out automatically. We get rains in the spring, and so the plants can hang around, and the foliage can hang around. And so they say to wait till the foliage turns yellow. Don't wait for that long, because there's a lot of times it'll just hang around all the way through June. So as soon as it's been recharged, fertilize it. As soon as it's recharged for 8 weeks, you can cut all that foliage off, and it does the trick. Okay, thanks a lot. I saw thank you very much. And how often do bulbs have to be dug up and divided? Okay, if you're fertilizing regularly, then that really does the trick. Otherwise, then you should plan to dig, especially daffodils, once every 6 to 10 years, and you can pick them up and dig them up and divide them. But the plants usually will tell you if they stop blooming, if all of a sudden one year they bloomed really well, and you're still fertilizing. If you haven't fertilized, then shame on you. It's not the plant's fault. But if you're fertilizing, and then all of a sudden you see that you're not getting as many flowers, that's when you dig them up. And you can wait to do that until the fall. Dig them up and then divide them out, and divide them by a third, and then put a third back into the hole originally, and then spread them out through the rest of your garden. Good questions. Just repeat them. Don't skip. I don't know what that is. I don't know what I don't understand some of these questions. Okay. All right. Everybody, thank you so much. It is now 11:58. Oh no, it's 12:04. My clock is not good on my watch. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you, and thanks for attending. We really love having you come, and we love keeping you educated. All right, thanks so much. Bye bye now.